What's going on, Diego?
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Super good, and you?
As well as can be expected with the season and everybody getting sick and things going around, but I'm good. Can't complain.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for this. I really hope that your audience and my audience, but your audience mostly gets a lot of value out of today's talk. I need
Yeah.
a light. I don't have a light, but it's okay. It's all good. So, yeah, take it away, man. What kind of things do we need to talk about regarding cheer culture in Puerto Rico?
Well, first of all, here in Puerto Rico, we have like a lot of issues in our shared gyms. Mostly, we practice at hard floor, the all-star teams, and it's super really tough. I am an athlete and also a coach, so I have experienced both sides.
Okay.
And as a coach, we put our pressure to our athletes because we want them to be better. But their mental health for me is super important.
Yeah.
And we are here in Puerto Rico having a lot of injuries regarding tumbling issues concerning about the hard floor and not having the spring floor because I know the spring floor could help prevent like
Yeah.
minor the injury.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm trying to educate with my platform all my athletes, all the people here in Puerto Rico, all the coaches, gym owners, and how to help the athletes and also the parents because parents are important figure in the life of the
Yes.
kids and the progress and the cheerleading or tumbling thing.
Yeah.
And and it's super difficult here in Puerto Rico because there we have like seven all-star gyms across all the island, and the the knowledge is soft, is low,
Mm.
and I mostly like every year travel to the US to college nationals, to all stars, to worlds, to ICU, and I keep like taking courses online or going in the US to some gyms that I know guys to learn new things to bring to my gym where I work for. But it's not like enough to bring to the people here in Puerto Rico to be
Yeah.
better. So
Yeah. I think two things based on what you just said, two things are really important to realize. Number one, if you're always within uh, a culture. And here we're talking more about greater cheer culture, not just Puerto Rican cheer culture, right?
yeah,
So if you are always within it, you can't really observe it and
yeah,
see what works, what doesn't work, and what you would like to take back with you and integrate. And then the second thing is, not many people have the luxury that I do, which is to specialize in something and make that your main business. Like I was very
yeah,
fortunate about probably about 8 years ago to really start honing in on mental performance and making that my specialty and making that I call it my magnificent obsession, like
yeah.
the thing that just gets me up and keeps me up and gets me up in the morning. Um, One of the benefits of doing this though is that I'm the opposite. I'm not at nationals. I'm not at worlds. I'm not entrenched. I'm not at practice every day. I'm not a head coach in the gym. I'm not an owner. So I'm not in cheer culture like that. And so what that means is that I get to observe and like I was saying, I get to see what works, what doesn't work, what I would like to speak on, what I'd like to denounce and say, hey guys, this isn't working. So I think your position makes a lot of sense because I think there's a lot of coaches, especially internationally, where you're seeing what the US is producing
Yeah.
and you're like, this is what we have to be. I'm sure. Tell
Yeah,
me if
yeah.
I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm
No,
wrong.
you're a
You-
hundred
You're
percent correct.
you're
Yeah,
telling your athletes, you're like, guys, this is who we have to be.
yeah,
This is our standard. And while that's good from a performance, because you're seeing the output, you're
yeah,
seeing the end result, and that's what you want. But what you're what you reached out to me about was what goes on behind the scenes, and like what do we need to talk about behind the scenes. So, but it's really interesting to know that there's only a handful of gyms and you guys all share space. There's a lot of dead mat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Spring floor would help because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed. A lot of athletes and coaches think that spring floor was designed to make your tricks better.
Yeah.
It's not. It's to keep your joints safe, and so I don't know how you want to do this. Number one, I can't see if anybody's joining in or commenting. So maybe I
Uh,
have to do this. Hold on. It says request to join, but it won't let me hit that button. So if anybody has any comments, let me know because I would love to speak
yeah.
on them. But I can see the questions that were submitted, which I
Oh,
think is really cool.
I think I have. Yeah. You see the
There you
question?
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other thing that I wanted to do is I don't know if anybody's watching or listening and they know someone who is struggling with their mental performance or their confidence or they have anxiety or they comparison is holding them back. We have one of those questions here. Send this right now to that person because this is the place you can ask questions and
Yeah.
we can address it. Um, so yeah, so you wanna dive into questions?
Yeah, we could go in. Let's go.
Let's do it, man. So how can we get rid of the fear of tumbling? I love this is what I was talking about. My magnificent obsession is fear. And one of my biggest missions is to help people reframe how they understand fear, right? Because from very early ages, we are taught not to fear. And this is what we're always taught, like you have to be fearless. Fearlessness equals courageousness. We're taught to not be afraid in order to be confident. We're taught to um, get rid of our fear, right? Conquer your fear, defeat your fear. All these words
Yeah.
imply that you're going to be rid of fear forever. If you have a fear of something, like let's say you have a fear of heights and you conquer your fear by going skydiving, the implication is that you're going to be rid of fear after that. Oh, no more fear of heights after that. That's not how fear works, right? Number one, fear is natural. It's actually a part of our nervous system, it's a part of our survival system. It's designed to help keep us safe and alive. So what I teach is fear is a signal. It's data, right? It's input that your brain and your body use to make their best decision, what they consider the best decision to keep you alive, right? So we've all heard of the fight or flight response. Fight or flight in main culture is viewed as if you fight, you're brave, and if you flee, you're a coward. And that's
Yeah.
just not true, right? So and this will be interesting too. As I'm speaking, Diego, keep in mind things from your culture because this is the other thing. We could talk mental performance, but if we're not talking mental performance within the culture of Puerto Rico, right? The greater, maybe like just even like Latin culture, I think that's an important distinction to make, right? Because if we don't discuss that, people are going to be listening. They're like, well, yeah, but like my dad, or yeah, but my grandma, and so we have to like talk about things that generations have passed down. But anywho, if you're looking at fear as a threat, that is how your body and your brain are going to treat it. So when someone says, how can we get rid of the fear of tumbling? If you're looking at the fear that you experience when tumbling as a bad thing, that is how our brains are taught to treat it. Not only that, but our brains have this amazing feature where once we say something is bad or a threat to us, your brain says, okay, I'm going to start focusing and looking for other things that are like that to let you know and warn you of other threats that are like this one. So if you say you're afraid of spiders, most likely you're going to be afraid of other type of bugs as well because you've told your brain Spider, bad. And your brain's like, okay, cool. So any small little creature that crawls, I'm gonna look out for. We're gonna say that, it's bad as well. So when we say, how can I get rid of the fear of tumbling? Instead of focusing on getting rid of the fear, because that is physically and psychologically impossible, let's instead focus on understanding what that fear is trying to communicate, because that's what it's designed for. Fear is a communicator. So I mean, going into this, I would love to know more. I wish we had, this person here to tell us more specifically, what is your fear with tumbling? Is it going backwards? Is it going upside down? Is it, putting your hands down? Or would you prefer to do tucks and stuff like that? It's really interesting because the things that we say we are afraid of are actually the sensations or the way that it makes us feel. That's what we're afraid of. Diego, do you have a fear? Like, it doesn't have to be cheer related. Do you have a
Yeah,
fear in life? What is it?
yeah. Well, mostly I think the most common is to die, like the fear
Okay.
to die. But in a professional way, I could say the fear to make a mistake or to fail to my athletes or fail to my member of my family, I could say.
Okay. Let's talk about both because I think they're both interesting. Okay. Concerning your fear of death, how many times have you died?
Uh,
Right. You haven't experienced that yet, right? And even
yeah,
if you had, unfortunately, you wouldn't be around to remember what that felt like. So, for your fear of death, you are afraid of the feelings that get brought up when you think of dying. Does that make sense?
yeah,
That is what you're afraid of. And so, what humans do, we have this thing that we blame something small and easy to understand for a much bigger problem. Because I'm sure your fear of death could be tied to maybe a death in the family or some greater sense of like, I don't like this idea, right? I don't like the idea of dying, which is it's pretty typical. It's what all humans are alive for, like we
yeah,
don't want to die. And that's what the brain and body are constantly trying to help you with to stay alive.
yeah.
So that one's interesting. The fear of failure. Um, so again, we blame something small and easy to communicate for something much bigger. We don't have time to dive into your psychology and your history and why you have identified failing as a threat, but that's what you did somewhere along the way. You told your brain, if I fail, this is bad. And it's not just bad, but it is detrimental to me living and being, my survival. And so your brain said, cool, not only are we going to try to avoid failure, but I'm going to look for other situations where you could fail. And I'm just going to feed you that information just so you're aware of it. To the brain, it's very efficient, but
Yeah.
to the human, it's overwhelming, right? And so it leads to things like anxiety. All these things are out of my control, and I don't like the way that feels. It leads to all these other things. But again, I ask you, Diego, are you afraid of actually failing or the way that thinking about failing makes you feel?
Oh,
Which one it has a greater impact on you? Actually failing, which you seem like a very winning person. I don't think you're failing as often as you think you are. Actually failing or the thought of failure? Which one do you experience more often?
the second one.
Ah, okay. So,
Yeah.
but what you will do is you'll say, I'm afraid of failing. And then people will be like, oh, yeah, me too. This is what we do as humans. We try to make our explanations and our reasoning shorter and easier to understand so that we can relate to people because we're designed to not be alone. Humans are designed to be social creatures. So we want to relate to people. But unfortunately, what that does is it gets us in a place where we don't have to be accessible with our emotions, right? And so you get more and more uncomfortable of being um, vague, being general. You get more comfortable with being vague in general and less comfortable with being open, honest, and accessible. So, how do we get rid of the fear of tumbling? We don't. We recondition our response to being afraid. So, what do we do instead? We allow ourselves to experience the discomfort and we get specific. I'm afraid of being upside down. Well, then do more handstands. Be upside down more often. I'm afraid of jumping backwards. Then instead of just doing the back handspring, go do a drill where you jump backwards and land on your back more often, right? Recondition your response. And then make sure when you're doing these drills, you're saying, this is not a threat. This is just my brain telling me what it's supposed to do, telling me to pay attention to something. That's that answer.
Is a complete answer, and and for me, usually like past 2 weeks ago, I was doing like a private tumbling with one of my athletes, and she got a mental block doing round of back handspring, and I asked her, why why do you change your technique? What happened to your like through your mind that changed it? And she told me like I'm scared of like going backwards or like bending my arms, hitting my head. And I told her like, do you need to go back like to go to basics so we can like do a reset to your brain or to your mind to your like to the basic? And she like was like, no, I don't want that, but I
Yeah.
think we should do it. And like we go back, we started, and we are like again on the round of back handspring, and she's doing like 200% better than she was like the past week. So it's something like hearing your answer is like something like I think I did it good because the fear, as you explained it, is something like is here, so we have like to face it,
Yeah.
not let it like the fear like consume you. You have to like consume the fear and like kick it out, go the way here,
But that's how
and
we, as humans, we verbalize it. We're like, no, I have to consume this. I have to control this. Instead of looking at it, have you seen Venom?
yeah,
Okay, you know the story of Venom, right? Venom is an alien symbiote, right? A symbiote is something, it's almost like a parasite, like in science. A symbiote is a parasite that lives harmoniously with the host, right? So the parasite gets something from the host, and ironically, the host also gets something from the parasite. And that's the idea behind Venom. They didn't do it so well in the movies, but in the comics, that was the idea. The alien was getting a host that it could use its physical body, and then the host was getting all these superpowers, making it feel more alive, right? That's kind of how you can look at fear. Fear and you have to coexist. There is no, I'm going to consume the fear. Instead, it's more, I'm going to understand this and live with it because in the end, it's actually helping me. Fear is not the problem. The relationship that we have with fear is the problem. And the way that we think about our fear, we talk about our fear, that's the problem. So fear is kind of like that embarrassing family member that you don't want to bring, to events because you're like, I don't know what they're going to say or do. Well, because maybe you haven't taken the time to understand them better, right? So they're not the issue. Maybe you're the issue, your relationship with fear. But what you did, Diego, is huge. You said, since neither of us really understand what's going on, let's back it up. And that's what too many coaches and athletes fail to do, and parents, for those of you listening, too many fail to do that. They fail to say, let's go back and revisit the foundations. And like for people like you and I, that's also an opportunity for us to see where they're uncomfortable more often, right? If I take you back to your foundational skills and you're cutting corners on the foundational skills, I'm like, whoa, 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 this is part of the problem. Why would you expect to go to the next level if you're not fully comprehending, understanding, and able to control yourself at this level? Why would I give you more speed and more power at a higher level if you're not fully understanding this level? So that's why you saw that tremendous 200%, increase in her performance, because it wasn't just the physical, it was her understanding of it all. So I think that was huge. And that's what I agree that we should all do. When you don't necessarily have the words, when you don't have the understanding, that's a good point to say, well, you know what? Let's stop here. Let's back up. I just posted a thing the other day that I say all the time. Drills keep skills. They don't get skills. They keep skills because even after you get your back handspring, you should still be drilling it, deconstructing it, making sure you understand the pieces, and then always put it before you start putting it back together whole. Um, Sophie asked a great question because it's basically where we're at in this conversation. She said, what do you think would be an appropriate approach for this fear topic on younger athletes who maybe don't know what to say or how to say what they're feeling? Sounds like your example, Diego, also dealt with that, right?
Yeah.
She didn't know what to say. You didn't have the words. So, Sophie, what I will say, we have to keep in mind that a lot of people just don't have the practice with verbalizing vulnerably or making their emotions accessible. It really boils down to their comfort level. If they are uncomfortable expressing themselves, then they are going to be more reserved and they're going to speak more in general terms. But if they're not so uncomfortable with expressing themselves, sometimes they just don't have the practice of using the words and putting those words together to accurately say, this is how I feel. So we do have to give them space to discover those words. But we also have to remember that we are emotional creatures. And so, one thing that happens between the brain and our understanding or are able to verbalize ourselves. Um, when we think about the five main questions, right? Who, what, where, when, why? Who, where, and when are always going to be facts, right? Who, Diego, where, Instagram Live, when, today. Those are all facts, no opinion. But what and why are very interesting questions because those actually have to get processed through our limbic system, which is a region of the brain or a collection of regions that help us to regulate our hormones and process our emotions into feelings. So answering what and why are always going to be emotional answers. Now think about what I said at first. If you are a person who struggles with being vulnerable, then answering what and why is going to be a struggle because you know that there's emotions tied to those answers and you don't feel comfortable sharing those emotions with people. I know this firsthand because hundreds of times when talking to athletes about their mental performance or their emotional performance, I will ask a question and they'll say, I don't know, which is a very typical response. And I will
Yeah.
point out to them what I just explained to you guys about the limbic system, about what and why, five questions, all that. I'll say, so you do know, but we just met each other. So maybe you're not comfortable explaining it to me. That's fine. Or maybe you just haven't had the practice of finding the words, but I encourage you, try to find the words right now because I guarantee you that you do know. You just haven't had the practice of saying it or you're just uncomfortable saying it. And I'll always get a smile. And then right after that, I'll get an answer immediately after. Even if it's not the answer, it's an answer that gets us moving forward. And so, to my coaches and parents listening, if you get hit with an I don't know, it's because the athlete is uncomfortable answering. Either uncomfortable because they don't have the words or uncomfortable because they don't have the vulnerability, the accessibility. That's fine. Give them that space, give them the chance to practice, and encourage them. You know what? It's fine if you don't have the words right now. Think about the question, see if you can find the words, and realize that I don't know is the number one way that we are going to distance ourselves when we don't want to answer a question. It's not always defiance. It just simply means I don't have the words at this moment. Good question, Sophie. Hopefully she's still watching and was able to hear that answer. Same with North Texas tumbling.
Let's check the other one here. Here.
Let's see. How can I, let's see, how can I overcome the fear of failing in front of my team and coaches? Diego, this sounds exactly like what you asked, what you said your fear was, right? So
Yeah.
let's answer this question because I can tell my man is so uncomfortable with this thought right now. Let's answer this question by speaking personally, Diego. Let's talk. Let's interview you a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When did you first notice that you had this fear? That you when do you feel like you first attached meaning to failing?
I think when I was super very young, at the first very stage of when I started playing soccer,
How young? Like 8, 9,
um,
6,
like 7, 8 years, could
7,
say.
8.
Yeah.
And then what is the worst thing? I want you to answer this in two parts. How old are you now?
23.
Okay. So go back to being 8 and think about what failing meant then, and then answer the same question as a 23-year-old. What does failing mean now?
Well, as an 8 year, I could say like failing is like for me like the disappointment to my family, could say to my mother or my father.
Wait,
And
wait, wait, wait. Which one? Who was it more important for you to not fail?
wow. I could say like more my, oh my God. If they're watching the live, they're gonna like kill me. But I think I have to say my mom,
¿Por qué?
because I am more attached to my mom. Like I think like boys are more attached to mom and girls are more attached to dad.
Typically, yeah.
So like I think I was failing my mom, but when I play soccer, my dad was the one like was always at my practice, and every time he was the one speaking to me, like giving that heads up, don't be like down, don't be frustrated, you can do that, you can be better. And my mom was the one that saw me like in tears and frustrated.
Mm.
So that's what the reason that I say like my mom.
Do you see how already you've given yourself more answers than I'm sure you've explored in your 23 years of life?
Yeah.
Just by doing that, I have another similar question that's going to hit really hard because I love that you outlined your relationship with your dad and your relationship with your mom in regards to the activity, into regards to the sport. When I ask you whose love and approval do you crave more? Does it have the same answer or is it a different answer?
No, it's 100% my mom's.
Yeah. And is it because of expectations you have or because of expectations she has? And keep in mind, don't answer with the expectations you think she has. I'm asking, has she verbalized expectations to you? Diego, I want you to be this, I want you to be this, I want you to be this. Or are they expectations you think she has?
The expectations that I think she has.
Have you ever talked to her about it?
No.
So you've attached all of this importance to her approval, thinking that if you don't meet these expectations, she will be disappointed. But she's mom at the end
Yeah.
of the day. She's the one that saw you crying, that saw you frustrated, and you felt safe to do that with her because you knew that she would understand, right? So this is why we say it's not about the thing we say we're afraid of. It's diving deeper and understanding what the bigger picture is. Everybody listening, just witnessed, and thank you, Diego, because that was huge, man. Everybody just witnessed how you at first said something very vague and very simple for all of us to understand. I'm afraid of failing. And other people listening with a similar fear attached their own meaning to that and they related to you. That's the whole point of communication, right? Again, human beings are meant to be communal creatures. We're not meant to live, die, or struggle alone. So what you did was just you found a tribe and they're relating to you right now. But in order to going to this question, how do I overcome my fear of failing in front of my coaches and my teammates? You have to dive deeper. You have to understand what that fear is, where it's coming from, and understand you're not afraid of failing, right? You're afraid of the way failing makes you feel. I worked with this girl from Top Gun Miami, amazing athlete in the gym. She did 8 hours of private lessons every week, just private lessons. 8 hours, Diego. She was in the gym all the time. And you know, you've been to Top Gun, I'm sure. You know that it's a completely different ecosystem, right? There's hundreds of kids in the gym and coaches at any given moment. I know that with what I've heard from multiple people with Top Gun Miami, you don't get to choose who you have a private lesson with all the time, which I think has pros and cons. I think the pros are that the kids don't lean on any one coach as a crutch, but then I think some of the cons are when an athlete does find a coach that clicks and resonates with them, it does help them to stick with them, maybe, you know, for a couple of lessons. Not forever, just a couple of lessons. But she kept saying, same thing. I have a fear of failing. I don't want to fail. And we had 3 days together, me, her, and her mom. And her mom, man, she was tough. She was like, I don't get why you're like this. Just get over it. Like, just do it. Like, you got to be stronger. And me and her mom, like, I was real with her. I was like, look, you got to ease up. And her mom was like, but if I ease up, and she was like, okay, fine, Coach Lain, you're right. You know? But after digging for 3 days, the girl finally was able to pinpoint where her frustration and her fear was coming from. It wasn't that she didn't want to let mom down, that she didn't want to let her teammates down. And this is going back to your thing. It was that there was one specific person that she didn't want to let down in the gym. And it wasn't her coaches, it wasn't her teammates, it was the person who she thought was responsible for saying whether or not she could advance to another team. That's what it boiled down to with her. But we had to dig for 3 days through insecurity, through lack of vulnerability, through all these things, just to get to that little nugget. So when you say, well, the person who asked this question, I forget where this one was from, but when they say, how do I get overcome the fear of failing in front of my team and coaches? Identify the actual threats. Identify the person you're actually afraid of failing in front of, and dig deeper. See if there's a why there. And just like we talked about before, it's not about overcoming your fear. It's about understanding it better, right? What is this fear trying to communicate to me? Is it that is it about my insecurity? Is it about my lack of confidence? What is it trying to say? But it's usually not going to be anything conscious. It's always going to deal with your subconscious, because fear comes from the subconscious mind. It comes from our survival mind. So it's going to be what you've either trained yourself to view as a threat, or what your brain has perceived as a threat or a discomfort. So that's that answer. Anybody who's watching, you guys throw some thumbs up, throw some comments, throw some hearts. Let us know if you're enjoying this content, because I have a feeling this is not going to be the only time me and Diego jump on a live and try to spit some truth about cheer culture.
I think I put the other one that I got from the stories.
How can we deal with athletes that are negative and compare their progress to others? This is really interesting, because this is going to involve some mindset, right? So a distinction I always like to make is that mindset training involves our conscious brain. right? Our I have my little brain model here. So mindset training involves our prefrontal cortex. This is where all of our high functioning and um, difficult thoughts and choices and opinions are formed in our prefrontal cortex. But hey, I don't know how to pronounce this yog season. I don't know, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, so that's where our thoughts, opinions, choices, all of that prefrontal cortex, conscious mind, this is where mindset training happens. It focuses on this, the things that you can control, the thoughts you can control, the things that you say about yourself. But when it comes to fear, when it comes to survival, when it comes to understanding the way your brain and body are working, that comes from your subconscious mind. And it's very interesting that a big portion of our subconscious brain is actually in the back of our brain, and that our conscious mind is in the front. So, mindset training involves conscious mind. Mental performance involves not only a holistic approach, so understanding how your brain, your body, and your emotions work together and interact, right? But also what's going on subconsciously. How is your subconscious brain um, doing what it's designed to do, right? How is it doing that, and how does that impact you? So when we start talking about how can we deal with athletes that are negative, yes, there is going to be some mindset training there, which is an important part of the equation. It's not my favorite part because I think it gets manipulated. I think um, motivation culture manipulates mindset, right? It's always telling you, you've seen the accounts, Diego, like the
Yeah,
millionaire mentor, and all these things where it's like, you got this, you can do it. You got to be better. You got to wake up. You got to want it as bad as you can breathe, and all this
yeah,
and hollow hype, right? Um, but I think it also boils down to understanding. Comparison is how humans learn. If you think about it, when we're babies, we don't have the brain function and we don't have the words to understand or communicate what we want to learn. So, how do we learn things? We learn by mimicking and comparing what we're doing to somebody else. I did want to go back to something that you said when you were talking about when you started noticing your fear of failure starting to come up. Eight, 8 years old to 10 years old is the developmental stage when we start to notice people's judgment of us, right? So between 8 and 10, we start to form an opinion about ourselves based on how we see other people respond to us, the opinions that they have about us and our abilities. For you and many other athletes, that perfectionism started back then, right? Because you told yourself, if I make a mistake, they're going to have a different opinion about me. And if their opinion is negative, I don't want to experience that. So I just have to avoid making mistakes so I never have to experience their opinions, their negativity. And this is where a lot of cheer athletes are. Think about this. Out of, like, if you think about soccer, think about basketball, football, baseball, you think about traditional sports, they're not based in judgment, right? They're based on scores. If you do this, you get this score. Good system, right? Cheer, dance, gymnastics, diving, any of the aerial acro sports, they all involve judgment. They all have judges. And the panel of judges will judge your performance. But the thing with like dance, cheer, and gymnastics is as soon as you walk into the gym or the studio, you're aware of that judgment. So things like comparison start to change functions for us then. It goes from us using comparison to learn to us now using comparison to say, how do I avoid this type of judgment? That girl is really good with her tumbling and she only gets really good remarks. I want to make my tumbling like her. That's fine if you see value in her physical ability. You see that she's safe, you see that she's technically strong, you see that it looks good, it's pleasing to watch. There's nothing wrong with saying I want my tumbling to look like that. But as soon as you cross that line of from comparison for learning and you go into comparison for judgment, and you say, that girl's tumbling looks so good. She always gets great remarks about her tumbling. My tumbling will never look like that. As soon as you cross that line, now you're in the space that this person asked about, right? This negative mind space and comparing progress. I don't think to answer this question, I don't think comparing progress is necessarily the negative part of comparison, right? I think that it can help reveal things that need to be worked on. So if you're saying, well, my best friend has just skyrocketed. She's doing fulls, she's doing, passes all the way through, and I'm still stuck on my standing back handspring. Just the words that you just chose, I'm stuck, right? That's going to go into that mindset training where you're like, I'm, I can't do anything about moving on from here. Instead of realizing, have I ever asked my best friend what she's done? What is she doing when I'm not around to work on her tumbling? What is she doing at home? What is she thinking about? What is she asking? What kind of questions is she asking her coach? That's where comparison is really, really good, right? Because then you're saying, um, what do you know that I don't know? What are you trying that I'm not trying? And how can I improve my system? How many athletes go up to their friends and say, hey, can you watch this really quick and tell me what you think? Because I really like the way you do your fulls. They don't do that because cheer culture is number one, it's always about what's next. You got your back handspring. What else can you do? Can you do your round off back handspring? Cool, you got your round off. Can you add a tuck to it? Cool, can you turn it into a layout? Yeah? Okay, now do a full. It's always about what's next. Give me more, give me more, give me more. And so athletes like yours who think that going back to review their drills or review earlier skills, they think that's a bad thing because they think it's not moving forward, right? Or they think, well, she doesn't have to go back. Why do I have to do it? If I have to do it, there must be something wrong with me. No, it's that somewhere along the way, you either skipped a step or you don't understand something. What's wrong with you just taking a step back? I always say, never confuse a step backwards with a backward step, right? A step backwards is a choice. It's you saying, you know what? I'm not quite ready to jump off the cliff yet. Let me go check my parachute again. Or let me just make sure I understand the timing of everything. But a backward step is what we say when we think that someone is failing or regressing, right? They're moving backwards in their progress. A conscious choice to step backward and say, you know what, I just need to review my drills and my technique a little bit more. Maybe I should spend a little bit more time on my standing back handspring before I worry about doing this. Maybe the back handspring is not the issue. Maybe my round off sucks, right? So, anywho, that is what's going to help you. And that's explaining it to your athlete like that. That's what's going to help in those moments. When I have athletes who are negative, I think the important thing from a neuroscience standpoint, it's important to understand, right? Because I did say like, oh, there might be some mindset training there. Negative people have trained their brains to look for negative things, and it doesn't take a lot of practice, right? There's this concept called neuroplasticity. It's what allows us to be adaptive. We learn, our brains learn, even though muscle memory is really hard to reprogram. So like if I so Diego, going back to your example, early on, it didn't take much for you to say failing is bad. And now this is the thing that you've taught your brain to focus on for the last, 12, 13, 14 years. You said, we're going to focus on, or 15, we're going to focus on what's bad. You're not doing it on purpose. You're doing it as a means of survival, of staying in a positive place, right? But it's counterintuitive. It's like when athletes, like you were saying, when athletes do things that don't make sense, they change their technique. It's because the brain is saying, you know what? This doesn't make sense. Back handspring, that doesn't make sense. But if you're going to do it like this, because the brain is trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense to it, right? And your brain is only, it's not doing it to sabotage you, it's just trying to keep you safe and alive. That's the same thing with your negativity. You're focusing on negative things because you taught your brain to say, hey, this negative thing is bad. And your brain does. Let me ask you this. Have you ever, like, you're driving around and you notice a car? What's your favorite car?
Oh,
Like that car that you really want.
is Nissan GTR.
Okay. So you see a Nissan GTR on the road. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, that is a good looking car. For the next week, you start noticing more Nissan GTRs on the road. And you're like, I've never seen these cars out here like this. Like, is everyone around me getting Nissan GTRs? What's happening? It's not that there's a higher frequency. It's that you told your brain that it's something important to you and you want to focus on it. The same thing happens with negative things. Your brain is designed to look for and prepare you for other things. If you say, hey, this is good, pay attention to that. Your brain is going to do that because that's a survival thing, right? If you found a fruit, go back to caveman days, you found this fruit tree, you're like, wow, this is a really good fruit. And it fills me up. Your brain's like, I got you. We're going to look for that fruit everywhere we go from now on, right? But then when it comes to negative things, oh, there's a saber-toothed tiger over there in that area. Your brain's like, cool, I'm going to look for similar areas or, we're going to look for saber-toothed tigers from now on. It's a very basic understanding of how our brains work. So them being negative is not necessarily their choice all the time. And this is why I do like to make the distinction with mindset training, because if we focus on, helping them to be in a better mindset, we can't do that. You can't motivate people externally. Motivation comes from internal, right? So it's really hard to get a negative person in a positive place because outside outside motivation isn't going to work. But if you help them understand, I get that you're in a negative place, but do you know it's just your brain trying to protect you? And they'll be like, what? Yeah. You taught your brain to look for these negative things. Then similarly, you can teach your brain to look for positive things. That makes sense?
Yeah.
We got some great comments from folks. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you guys so much. Let's see. You pinned another question. Are there any keywords or phrases that you have said that ties into athletes breaking through mental blocks? Um, yeah, this is a great question, Brian. Number one, I make the distinction. Diego, how much time do we have left? Are we good? We're good? Okay.
Yeah.
So number one, Brian, I make the distinction that um, mental blocks do not influence physical learned behaviors. Our physical skills are not affected by mental blocks. Mental blocks strictly affect mental processes. If you look up the definition of a mental block, the traditional definition says that a mental block is a person's inability to perform a mental action or recall mental information. So, Diego, you ready? 3 actual mental blocks. Number one, have you ever gotten up from a seat or a room in your house or apartment, gone into another room, and forgot why you went in that room?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty common.
Yeah.
That's a mental block. What about, by the way, it's called threshold syndrome, and it affects everybody. Doesn't matter your age. So if you're getting older and you're thinking that it's your age, it has nothing to do with that. Number two, have you ever been telling a story and then you're like, yeah, and then we went to that place called, oh, it's right there. Does that ever happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a mental block, right? It's the psychological term for it is lethalogica or tip of the tongue syndrome. And then finally, I don't know if you're still in school, but for anybody that's still in school, have you ever forgotten how to do a math problem?
Of course.
There you go. 3 examples of actual mental blocks. Okay. The reason mental blocks don't affect our physical learned behaviors is because our physical learned behaviors go to a part of our brain called implicit long term memory that cannot be forgotten. It's a one-way street. It's like, I guess, a more modern example. It's like teaching an AI model something, and then that AI model will use it moving forward, right? So if I teach AI model like, what I do or how I speak, it's going to remember that moving forward. It's like, I guess a better example, it's like tapping your iPhone and then the app opens, right? You don't know how it opens. You're not a programmer. You just know it opens. So similarly, that's how our physical learned behaviors are. Do you think about, I'm asking you, Diego, do you think about talking, writing, or walking?
Yeah,
Or do they just happen? Do they just
um,
happen, or do you have to think about doing those things?
I have to think.
You have to think?
Yeah,
Well, this is different because now you're speaking English, right? Which is not your native language. So
yeah,
that makes a little bit more sense. But
yeah.
like if you're speaking Spanish, do you think about it?
No,
Okay, there you go. Or like if you're writing your name or you're writing an essay, do you have to think about writing? You think about what you're writing,
exactly.
but you don't think about actually writing. It's
Yeah,
because these are physical learned behaviors that we learned from a very early age and we practice them every single day, right? So they go to a part of our brain. Same thing with your back handsprings, your tucks, all that other stuff. You are simply allowing your brain and body to communicate with each other and repeat actions. So going back to Brian's question, are there key words or phrases that I have said that tie into athletes breaking through mental blocks? Number one, I explain what mental blocks are and why mental blocks aren't what they're dealing with. We've talked a lot about other things that they could be dealing with. It could be anxiety, it could be doubt, it could be, I don't want to say bad habits, but it could be physical behaviors that they've taught themselves that don't actually help them perform the skill. But just because they can't bring themselves to do a skill in that moment, it's not a mental block. Most likely, what it is some anxiety that they are feeling, and they don't like that feeling. It's a fear or anxiety that they're tying to that behavior. And it's a very personal anxiety because we can't tell them how stressed out they should be in that moment. That's something that they are assigning to that behavior or to that performance. And so what we do is, you can't treat cancer without calling it cancer. We can't treat a mental block by calling it a mental block because that's not what it is. So what we have to do instead, we have to give it an assignment and call it the right thing. So what we tend to call it is performance anxiety. And then this is something we don't have time to like really dive into, but it's either performance anxiety or it could be something that neuroscience calls the overwhelmed state, which is essentially your brain signaling for your body to shut down because you're too overwhelmed. Your body or your brain is trying to conserve energy and protect you. And this is why, going way back to the beginning of this live, I said your brain and body are having a conversation you don't like, but they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're just communicating on how to keep you safe. So I guess, Brian, I don't have specific terms or phrases that I say. I mean, I'm sure I do, but I maybe not being in the moment, they're not coming back to me. But this is the approach that I take. Number one, identifying what mental blocks actually are. Number two, helping the athlete to be more detailed in explaining what it is that they're feeling. And then number three, helping them to dig deep to the actual thing that they're uncomfortable with, not the thing that they say they're uncomfortable with. Hopefully that makes sense. Chloe, thanks for tuning in. Glenda, Charlie Fernandez, thank you so much, man. Appreciate that.
I think I we have done the questions that I got from the pool of the story,
Yeah,
and the two questions that appear in here in the comments of the live.
I had one more question that somebody submitted, and I don't have the answer for this, but maybe you could take this question and pass it along your people. But it says, are the skill requirements for tumbling in Puerto Rico different? Or I guess another way to think of that is, have you noticed that skill requirements are different. Or is Puerto Rico doing what most international countries do and using the US as a standard?
Yeah. Here in Puerto Rico is you have like a, I could say like a battle because
Mm,
some coaches wants to go like from 0% like in 2 days to 100%.
mm,
There are some other coaches that they want to go like step by step, using the correct way, teaching the athletes the correct way, stopping when you have to stop, going backwards when you have to go backwards. And we have here the coaches that they have the US system. They look at it and they say, okay, we have to do like tucks, we have to do round off layouts. Okay, let's work it with that. And you got some athletes that they don't know how to do a cartwheel, for example, and you want to throw them to do a round off layout. So here in Puerto Rico, this is the reality. There are some few coaches that use the correct method on the progress of the athlete, and also using the progress for the coaches too. Because
mm,
for me, this year is going to be my 6th year as a coach, and I have experienced a lot of like problems, I could say, because when I start, we don't have the US system. It was like a simpler rubric of varsity, and like you read it and okay, you have to do this, but like you don't have like the, for example, like you have to do 12 back handspring combos to earn the points. But
yeah.
now you are facing like, okay, in one section of your standing tumbling skills, you need 11 athletes executing a combo back handspring sequence, and in the other section you need 12 doing a step out with a combo of back handsprings. And we are facing like the reality of the coach that wants to teach, take the time to teach the athlete and how to progress. And we have the coach that only is using the athlete like to win, or like to have
Hmm.
the credibility of, oh, I'm the champion. Like, oh,
Hmm.
let's do this. Like here in Puerto Rico is really tough. We want to be similar or better than the US. We are not trying like to go step by step, but because I know like 100% sure that the US, when cheerleading start, they start from the ground.
Mm.
They start
You
from the
would think.
ground.
You would think. But I think that you're saying something that a lot of US cheer gyms and programs can relate to. I think that the bigger problem is cheer culture, just in general. I
Yeah,
think that okay, like so I think it's not even cheerleading culture, it's the culture of the industry, right? Because if we talk about industry, we're talking about the money making side of cheer and the part that wants to keep making money, right? The business side of cheer only makes more money if more people want to win. If
yeah,
winning is emphasized, and in order to win, you gotta you gotta be able to compete with or look like those that are winning.
yeah.
And so I think a lot of people all over the world that have these programs, especially if it's a smaller program, they're like, "What are we doing wrong? We gotta look like this." But you got to crawl before you walk, right? And you got to walk before you run. You have to understand foundation. You have to understand too, like what do you want your gym culture to be? Do you want it to just be focused on winning? If so, cool. Make that explicit. Make that known. Make sure that your parents, your athletes, and your coaches understand we are only here to win. However, you can motivate people with winning. You can motivate them with threats and fear. You can motivate them with encouragement. But you're going to get a result either way, no matter what you choose, what method you choose. So if you say we're only here to win, don't expect that culture to be the same as a gym that says we want to build each other up, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is understanding like I could give you, like, let's say I have this program, all we do is win. Back to back, we're just winning championships, we're winning titles, we're winning worlds. It seems like we can't lose. And you're like, wow, like, what are we doing wrong? And I'm like, here's everything that we do. Here's exactly how we build our program. Here's exactly how we run every single practice. Here's exactly how we train every single athlete with tumbling. I could give you everything, and it's still not a guarantee that your program is going to be like mine. So maybe the emphasis should be switched from what are they doing to how can we organize or set up our program to get similar results. Because, like I said at the very beginning, comparison is a great tool, right? It shows you what you like, what you dislike, what you would keep, what you would change, but it is not a guarantee for performance.
Mhm.
Just because I used to watch Michael Jordan slam dunk a basketball from the free throw line never meant that I would be able to do it myself, right?
Yeah.
And I had to realize as I got older and I saw that I stopped growing, hmm, I'm probably never going to dunk like him. If I'm able to dunk at all, which I'm not. So, but I had to shift my expectations. And I think that that's what we need to be thinking about too. I would love, and I'm going to come to Puerto Rico one day, and we're gonna meet in person. We're gonna talk. But what I would want to leave there when I come back, I want to see what Puerto Rico cheer is. I don't want to see Puerto Rico cheer look like U.S. cheer. I want you guys to infuse Puerto Rican culture into your cheer. I went to Sweden once. I went to Sweden a couple times, but this first trip, that was the burning question that I had. I was like, okay, I've been here for like a couple days. This is my second trip. I was like, I've been here for a couple days. I'm understanding Swedish culture a little bit better. How do Swedish people make cheerleading Swedish? And their answer is very similar, right? They look to the U.S. for stunting, like Sweden and a lot of those Scandinavian countries. Their thing is stunting. They can stunt, but because that's what they do. They just practice stunting all the time. Their tumbling is pretty good. It's actually a lot better than you expect it to be because even though they have facilities, like there are a lot of places where they can go because there's a lot of like really brand new gymnastics facilities. They have equipment, but they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to drill. So their tumbling is better than you expect it to be. But the thing that the owner said, she said, Swedish people are very low key. And so she said the way that we've made cheerleading our own is that we took out the big hair, the makeup, the glitter, like a lot of the fancy, like over the top stuff. She's like, we don't focus on that. We focus on skill. And that's what I would like to see with you guys. Make it your own. What can I come to Puerto Rico and say, wow, this is different than what I'm used to? How is it different? And I think that when we talk about culture clash or we talk about changing the culture, I think that's where we need to get. Is like, how are we going to make this ours? Sure, there's that standard. And for skills, we would like to look for inspiration, right? Because motivation makes you feel good. Inspiration makes you want to do good. So we look to them for inspiration, but I'm not going to say like we want to be the next Top Gun. We want to be different from Top Gun. We want to be better. We want to be our own version of Top Gun. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's where I think we need to go. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Chloe. I said it 3 times just to make sure. Hi, Chloe. No, seriously. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in. Diego, how do you feel about this time together, man?
Yeah, it was super awesome. I think I like hearing you like answering this like a few questions like it has like bring to me a lot of knowledge, a lot of new things I learned, like some new words or phrases or how could I reach to my athletes, and it was super awesome. I love it, and
Thank you, man.
you say a lot of words that when I hear it, I process them, and inside me, it came like the ball, like reminding me
Yeah.
the actions that I am doing like right now with my team, because right now with my team, I'm doing like this new dynamic. Like I'm I'm not only a coach for them. I
Yeah.
am like an inspiration. I'm a leader, but also I'm a friend. And here in Puerto Rico, like we have faced Hurricane Maria, we have faced COVID, we have
Jeez.
faced like a lot of things that mentally, the young generation is like rough, and mental health here is like a disaster. Because for my experience, I have to start college virtually for 2 years and a half. So
Jeez.
when I experienced the college experience, at like going presently to the classroom and like getting to know other people, it was like super difficult for me.
Yeah.
And I am experiencing these things in my team right now with some athletes that they're having like health issues, like mentally at their
Mm.
house, schools, or personal things, and they got the, I don't know if that's the correct word, but they have the confidence, or they have opened to me, and they have like wrote letters, like talking to me with like, I don't know, it's something big, because I saw words like I don't feel good, I feel sad. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot say like the worst words they said, because they are big words that they marked me and marked my assistant.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do dynamics with the team, I saw the difference in that kid, for example, that from day one and now she's completely like a different person. And
That's beautiful.
that makes me like more big, more with more energy, more happy. Um,
Yep.
and it's something like you said, like, wow, I did something, I helped someone, I like give this person a tool to be a better human being, or being a better or stronger person to face this fear, you know.
Mm-hmm.
and and you know, it's for me it's impactful, like talking about this, because as I hear them, I have faced a lot of things as an athlete, as a coach, and as a human being, because
Yeah.
everyone has their things. But as I told them, we cannot like say that life is going to be easy, like all the human beings are going to be similar, because if we are all similar with the same traits, or you know, everything similar, we're not, this is not the world.
It gets
So
boring.
yeah, it's like
Yeah, you know.
it's gonna be, I'm Diego or Coach Lain, like I like Jello too.
Right,
What
right.
is the difference I hear? So, and like they, that girl, especially that girl, got the knowledge of all the letters that she wrote to me, like from August until last practice, there was like
Wow.
five letters.
Wow. The fact that she
And
even took the time to write you a letter
yeah,
is
yeah.
amazing.
And the fact that she was frustrated, because she had, I coached level 3, and she's mentally blocked, or having this fear with the round of backhand spring tug.
Okay.
And she got the skill, but she always has the fear when she's standing to do the tumbling pass, that she's gonna fall. She's gonna touch
Right.
the mat.
Right.
And I always told her, when you step at the beginning of the mat and you're gonna do the clap or the motion that you got, you first gotta think of the round off. After you do the round off, you think the back handspring.
Yes.
And
One
after
skill at
you
a
do,
time.
yeah, and when you
Yes.
done the back handspring, you gotta think on the tug. on what you have to do correctly on the tire. And like she always like said, yeah, I know, Diego, but I'm scared. But yeah, and I stopped her and said, you got it. Like I huddle my team, I huddle the team. We do like a mini circle, like,
Hmm.
and she in the middle. Let's go, boom, and she done. And like she started, yeah,
I love it.
and she comes to us, and like she hugs us, and she hugs her friends. And I told her like, you gotta take the time, like take your time. I'm not gonna be mad if in the competition you fail, because failing in life is a lesson for you and for me as a coach and as a
I
team.
don't know, Coach Diego. Sounds like you need to listen to your own advice, man.
Yeah, I like firstly, I was not gonna be a cheerleader. I
Yeah.
was only a soccer and basketball player, like all the time. I always say cheerleading is for girls, cheerleading is for girls. I don't want this, I don't want this. But when I gave the opportunity to cheerleading, it completely changed my life. Um, I had the opportunity to represent Puerto Rico in ICU. I got the opportunity to represent my college and at nationals and worlds. Also, I got the opportunity to go
Amazing.
to worlds. I have experience of the scenarios of cheerleading, and the purpose of this platform of Math with Diego is like, as you said, trying to give the people around the world the culture of cheerleading of Puerto Rico.
I love that. Can I just point out a couple things? Because we
Yeah,
could talk forever, man. And I love everything that you just shared. I love that you pointed out that Puerto Rico has been slammed with a bunch of stuff lately. And I totally forgot about Hurricane Maria and the other tropical storms I think that you guys had to have felt some sort of,
yeah,
impact from, because there's been several that have happened
yeah.
this year alone. Um, but it's understandable because so many things I want to say. But let's talk about this. When you have athletes who feel like they have been beaten up or they seem like they're shutting down, yes, they are sad, but let's also focus on why they are sad. Why are their brain and body shutting down? And it starts with that same overwhelm response that we talked about earlier. When your brain detects, so like we have fight, flight, and freeze. Those are the three F's that we respond to, right? So if a threat seems manageable, you will fight it or flee from it, right? If this is something that it's bad, but I can get away or I can fight my way through it. It's not a choice of being brave or cowardly. It is survival. If my brain thinks that I can manage it, I'm going to fight or flee. If my brain thinks that I can't manage it, if it's so overwhelming that I just can't even conceive, I'm going to freeze, but that is not a choice. That is, again, my brain's survival mode. So my brain is shutting down. And
Mhm.
overwhelm and shutdown are two different things we don't have time to get into, but just know that they are related and that one leads to the other, right?
Yeah.
Overwhelm is hyperactivity and shutdown is hypoactivity, right? Where it's the opposite. You don't have enough energy because your brain is conserving things. So when you have an athlete who seems negative or seems like they're just lethargic or they're lazy, don't be so quick to blame them for being lazy or negative. Understand them better and understand, like you said, this generation, they've gone through a lot of crap already. The other thing I want to talk about is what you just said, right? Where you said, I had the opportunity to represent my country. That right there is something that is so beyond what kids, athletes, young adults from the US think. That's a very small percentage, right? And not to say that Puerto Rico isn't part of the US, but just to say, like, internationally, you get athletes who are proud to represent their culture and their country. So, what does that culture look like? What does Puerto Rico cheer look like, right? I want to see that pride up to represent Puerto Rico and not have you say, I'm proud to represent Puerto Rico, but let me make sure that I look like you guys. That's something that I think is a strength. And you never hear, I mean, you rarely hear American cheerleaders like, I had the chance to represent my country at Worlds this year. They're like, we're going to Worlds, we're going to Summit. Like that's all they care about. That's all that the parents care about. They want those bragging rights. To hear you say I had the opportunity to represent my country. That says so much more than anything you could ever actually say or explain. So take that with you going into those situations. And then going to the girl that you were saying, you guys did a great job of inspiring her and hyping her up in that moment. But remember that the thing that's going to keep her performing is number one, her understanding what she has tied her fear to. It's not the skill. Like you said, she can do the skill. We can do the skill. Just because I trip going up the stairs doesn't mean I have a mental block with walking, right? I may not like the feeling of tripping, so I try to avoid tripping. But if I say I'm afraid of walking, that's not accurate. Or if I say I have a mental block with that walking, I remember how to walk because it's a physical behavior. I remember how to round up, back handspring tuck because it's a physical behavior. I can't forget how to do those things unless I specifically damage this part of my brain. Or if I develop a disease like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's that attacks that part of the brain. You will remember how to do your skills until you die. That's the beauty of physical learned behavior. You don't have to think about it. It's subconsciously recalled and you don't forget it. So what she is afraid of is the thought of falling. Why are you afraid of falling? What happened there? Right? Number two, who cares? You're supposed to be scared. You're doing something dangerous.
Yeah.
Be scared. Scared doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. And so if you're scared, what are you afraid of? What is your brain trying to communicate to you? And acknowledge it. Thanks, brain. Your brain saying, "Hey, don't die." What if you land on your hands and knees coming out of that thing? It's just trying to warn you. And you say, "Okay, thanks. I have technique. I know what I'm doing." That's it. So reinforcing to her, "Hey, it's okay to be afraid. You're supposed to be afraid." Right? Fear is the way our brains and our bodies communicate, and they feed us information. And then number two, okay, so you're afraid. What are you afraid of? Let's be more specific. And then how do we avoid that thing? What do you have in your toolbox that you can use to avoid that outcome? So that's it. I'm done. That's all I'm gonna say because, like I said, we could go on for ages, man. But hopefully, your audience, everybody watching, for those of you that stuck around this whole time, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate the feedback that we've gotten in the comments so far, but I really hope that this did, in some way, speak to the culture. And I think we need to do this more often because I don't think this is a topic that we can tackle in one live.
Yeah.
So this is something that, maybe you can use this, chop it up, post it as some other content, and
Yeah.
see if we can get some more questions and you know, eyes on our next one. But I really appreciate you reaching out to me, brother.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had two girls that came to one of my events here in California with their mom from Puerto Rico, and they both said they're like, "Coach Lain, you got to come down to Puerto Rico," and that was like 3 years ago.
Wow.
So let's talk about how we can make that a reality.
Yeah, yeah. And as I told you when I reached you, I will travel. I talked to my team already, and I told them we have to go to California. We have to go there,
Let's
and they
go.
are like, yeah, let's go, let's go. Like we have a lot of trips scheduled, so we are like having a huge agenda in 2026. So it's gonna be
I'm here and
awesome.
I'm ready. I
Yeah,
don't have my own gym, but I have a gym where we can host you guys. It would be great. It's right down the street from hotels, so you can literally walk to the gym from the hotel. Let's make it a reality, man. Let's make it happen.
yeah, let's go.
All right, brother. Well, thank you guys. Thank you all so much. Thank you for having me, and everybody have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Thanks, man.
See ya.
Peace.
Thank you, everyone. See you on the next one.